Radio with Manny Moonraker and Nick O. Welcome to another episode of UFO Buster Radio. We are live today. This is episode number 63. And as you see from the title and from what I mentioned earlier in Manny's blurb earlier this week, I do have a special guest. Unfortunately, we won't have Big O here today, but we have someone who's just as ready to replace Big O, and you might remember her from earlier last year, and that is Donna. Donna, welcome back.
Hi, thank you.
So, Donna, you've got some Big O shoes to fill.
Oh my goodness, I am so worried about that too. He's quite the character.
Yeah, he is quite the character, so I guess if you want to ham it up a little here and there, you're welcome to do it.
Okay.
I'm not exactly the hammy type. But anyway, for you guys that are out there, we are actually live, and some of you may not see it because we didn't put this out ahead of time, only because it is NFL playoff season, and I didn't know if the show was going to be postponed for any reason. However, we do have some great topics to talk about today. And you know, whenever we bring on Donna does take us through the alien perspective from a biblical, perspective, you can say. The biblical side of things. So that's what your talk is going to be about today, right, Donna?
Yes, it is.
So before we get into that, because I'm sure that's going to be a lengthy conversation regarding biblical perspectives on aliens, we do want to talk about a particular incident that I came across. And Donna, I gotta say, when I first saw this incident, I did think of you.
Why me?
Well, it really has to do with the images that people gave, the description of the aliens in this next story.
Yes.
Yeah, did you see the pictures?
Yes. With the horns and the red eyes, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, oh my gosh, this is what Donna talked about last year. This is it right here. So the incident that I'm talking about goes back to January 20th of 1996. And it happened in central Brazil in the city or the town of Varginha. Now it sounds like kind of like Virginia, but it's Virginia. You know, it's Brazilian, so they say everything a little different. So the interesting part about the story was that this is one of those Roswell type stories where there was a crash and a supposed alleged recovery of alien bodies. So did you get to either maybe look at some of the story, Donna?
Yes, I did.
So I actually kind of read about the story, and I actually looked at the sci-fi special that they had regarding the incident. Now, according to the incident, a number of alien bodies were recovered by the locals and turned over to the U.S. authorities. Now, whether or not that actually happened, I don't know. Now, they're saying that as many as 6 alien bodies were captured or recovered. Some of them, of course, were alive. They were described as being 3 to 4 feet tall, humanoid, with dark brown hairless skin, big triangular heads, and 3 short horns with huge red eyes. Now, when I saw that picture, I immediately, I said, it's like a little demon. So that took me back to the conversation we had, Donna, last year regarding the idea that aliens are kind of like a demonic expression, if you will.
Yes.
So one of the things that was interesting about this story is the fact that the fire department was heavily involved in this rescue situation. And, of course, the area was plagued by UFO sightings for several weeks before the crash actually happened. And another interesting fact about this is that the government of Brazil was actually warned by the United States through NORAD that there was an object heading its way and letting them know, heads up, you're going to get something that looks like it's going to crash. And apparently it did. It was a cigar-shaped UFO. And, it hasn't been the same ever since. People have been talking about this. And here we are, 2017, and the story is still circulating. So, Donna, what was your thought when you read the story? What came to mind?
First off, I immediately am looking for how it could possibly be falsified or maybe misinterpreted, and so that's where I start looking. I start looking for the reasoning, the logical reasoning behind the incident, and I actually found an article, and I put it. There's always a little bit of, you have to take a grain of salt with everything that you read, especially on the internet, because you never know, how much it's fabricated. But I did find an article about this, that they called it a case closed, as they think that they may have discovered what it actually was.
So did the article? Did they know what it was? Did they give an idea?
Yes, there was actually a little boy, or a young boy. His name was Lewis, and he was he had malformities or something, and he used to be around that area a lot. And the way that they described that the alien was huddled up in their corner, where specifically he was huddled up in the corner, this little boy named Lewis used to do the same thing. And they actually have pictures. They posted pictures of this guy that he's all grown up now, and how it could have been, like eyes playing tricks on you, because our brain is always trying to make a picture out of something that it sees. And sometimes when we see something, it makes it look different. So I don't know. It was enough to make me skeptical.
And really, when you listen to some of the real famous individuals in ufology who actually looked at this particular incident, there was one, which is, of course, that's an individual that's always tied to ufology, Nick Pope, out of the UK, which he actually resides now in the US. He was really skeptical about the whole thing. And he kind of pointed out that maybe what the U.S. was trying to say was that there was some kind of a secret satellite that was coming down and crashing in Brazil, but they just didn't want to let people know that's what was happening.
Right.
Now, the other stories that came out of this, as Donna mentioned, there was that little Louise guy, his illness, and apparently because of his illness, he was always crouching in that position. It's really strange, but his illness kept him relatively small, real skinny, real slim, and I guess because of that, people are thinking that maybe the way these bodies were described, it could have been little Louise at that time. As Donna said, he's an adult right now. Now, there were other stories that came out of this. One was that the government officials in the area, I don't know if it was a mayor or somebody like that, actually said that there was a dwarf family, a husband and wife, who were victims of this crash, and those are the bodies that people saw.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, I can't. I was speechless when I heard that. And the reason why is because a lot of the individuals, especially the firefighters during that incident, were actually saying that the entity smelled like ammonia. So they gave this ammonia smell to them. and it was extremely strange. So that's why when I saw the story of little Louis and Louise, and I saw the story about the dwarf family, it almost doesn't jive because you have firefighters. Now I know this is Brazil; they probably don't have world-class firefighters. However, I believe that they're still trained to identify chemicals, and ammonia would be one of those. So in that same sci-fi documentary, we also heard from Stanton Friedman, very famous individual, and in that he kind of stated, and sometimes you don't hear Stanton Friedman kind of agree that something was out of this world, but he actually felt that this was of extraterrestrial origin, and that these entities appear to be what might have been either a cargo or a lesser being than what people are reporting as grays. So maybe like a pet or a prisoner or something like that, but their description is so startling and so different from what people usually identify with, or people who have been abducted describe as their as aliens. So these little brown have horns on their heads and red eyes, completely different. It was brand new, but like I said, I think it would be a good segue for this story, to go into what you're going to be talking about, Donna, and I think that's going to be fantastic as well.
Great. I'm really kind of excited because we've touched on this the last two times I was on. Just the belief that there is, I call it cosmic loneliness. I think that, we're such a small planet in such a huge, vast universe that we tend to want to think that there's something other than us out there. And contrary to that, the Bible is pretty much clear. God was pretty clear about the fact that Earth kind of was center stage. Earth is the center of the universe as far as he's concerned in his creation. And you can look back in the book of Genesis, and even the days of creation, on the fourth day is when God actually created the sun, the moons, and the stars for signs and a way to put the calendar on, to measure time. Okay, so Earth was actually created before the sun, the moon, and the stars. That's where you kind of sort of people don't want to think that we're the it of it, because we think that it makes us feel arrogant or whatever, that we could be the only creation.
Well, Donna, that's interesting, because I think I saw a news report that came out, I want to say like 3 days ago, where they, I guess they redated the moon. And so apparently the moon moon and Earth are 60 million years older than what they thought. But one of the conspiracies about this is that they're saying, and a lot of people in the scientific community believe, that the moon is actually older than the planet Earth is. Does that kind of contradict?
Yes, that does. And anytime, because I believe, to me, the Bible is inerrant. Like, I believe, if I try to listen to something someone else says, a scientist or whatever, or a man, to me, it puts the Bible in question. I cannot put the Bible in question, because then it shakes every bit of faith that I have. So when I speak on the authority of the Bible, and that the Bible is inerrant. So anytime that I question something someone says, I always go back to the Word of God, and I find my answers there. And the Bible is pretty accurate as far as, even throughout history, we, as the human race, there was a period of time where we thought the world was flat. And, the Bible even says it's a circle. So I have yet to find anything that contradicts, or anything that the Bible doesn't prove to be truth to me.
Well, that's interesting too. There's still people out there that believe that the Earth is flat.
The world is flat. I know what.
Yeah, that's amazing. So
Yeah.
when you look at things that like that article I sent you today, they also have the documentary, and you hear about science going out to prove that there's something more out there, crafts, going beyond the solar system. Is it then your opinion that the way the Bible frames it, that there really is a waste of time, basically, because we're not going to find anything beyond, that last planet or dwarf planet?
And that's why I was telling you we could also talk about the Tower of Babel, because after the flood, when Noah's family they were in the Shinar area, I guess it would be Mesopotamia now. They were told to go out and populate the earth because the earth was wiped out. There was no more people. So once again, like the Adam and Eve scenario, we've got Noah's family and his sons and their wives that was to go out and repopulate the earth. They did not do that. They stayed in one area, and they built what we would call our first pyramid in that area at that time. And in a sense, they were trying to build this tower up to reach God. And they were, some would say that maybe they were building this pyramid up so that to avoid another flood. So that's, when God scattered them, he scattered those people, into different countries and different languages, and that's when the languages got split up, according to the Bible. And that's also when you can also look and see the continental divide when the plates shifted, and you can, remember when you were a kid in school and they showed you how the continents all sat together or they fit together? Well, that is when it separated, was after the flood. And that's when the Mount Ararat all the mountain ranges were formed. It's actually pretty amazing if you do some research.
So, would you say then that
that's what we're doing? Yes.
Yeah.
We're trying to find God, or a lack of, or the existence or non-existence of God.
So you're saying that really is the aim of, let's say, NASA?
Without knowing it, that's where I think that the deceit of the enemy comes in. Because if there was life on other planets, if there were alien beings, that would make God's plan of salvation void, because his plan of salvation was for the human race. He made Earth for the humans. He made all of his creation was for the humans, for human beings. And we have, Adam and Eve and their fall from sin, and then even when Jesus came to Earth and he was, the God-man, how does that save the aliens? If there were alien beings within that creation period, how does that save the aliens? God's always going to make a way for salvation, or for a way for us to be with him in eternity.
So, is there no room for anyone else in God's grand scheme?
I don't know if I would say it that way. I don't know if I would say that there's no room. I would take it, as it is. It's like he loved us so much that he he created us to love him. He's created us for him. He's created us to need him. And why do we have to add to that? It should be as it is. That we are his creation. And no, I don't think that, and I don't know. God is so big. How can we ever know the mind of God? I don't know. But, there's also biblical descriptive about the earth being his footstool and the heavens being, like a veil, that like a curtain. It's just amazing. If you do some word search on it, it's pretty amazing, the description that it is of the heavens.
So, that's another conspiracy that's out there. When you say that, and I mean, it's funny, because they're saying that when you say the heavens like a veil, there is this theory out there by a few people that not only is, let's say, the moon artificial, and it was placed there artificially, but also that what we see is artificial also. Anything within our significant little galaxy, it's actually artificial, and that's why we seem to be moving away from like the center. But there's some kind of almost like a cloud or an area of distortion that almost keeps us from really seeing what's out there and from others looking in. So is that kind of like the veil that you're talking about?
Well, yeah. He can't, like, of course he has, okay, this is another thing. He has this way of, okay, during the flood, right before the flood, man really just disintegrated into a corrupted mess of a hot mess of beings. And when he destroyed the world with the flood, ever since then, every time that man has tried to rebel against God, he very gently, and like with the Tower of Babel, he gently rebukes man and stops them from, because we are rebellious. That's how we, as our flesh, we're very rebellious beings. And that's how he stops us. So yeah, he's not going to let us go too far into space. I don't even think that there's time left on this earth for that to happen. But that's a whole other story.
That's a different show.
You know what I'm talking about. It's a whole other story.
So,
but, in the book of Revelation, it talks about, well, actually, it was in the book of Isaiah. I'm sorry, and it says, "And all the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved." And those are the stars and the moons. Okay, when they talk about like that, so all of the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, and all their hosts shall fall down as the leaf falls from the vine, and as a falling fig from the fig tree. And that's how it's described. That's how the end is going to be, is that all the stars and planets and the moon and the sun are all going to fall away.
So it's almost sound like the sun's going supernova.
Yeah. Yep.
So here's a question. Is there room for someone that believes that there is something else out there, or even that believe that there's something else arriving here? Is there room for them to have a religious outtake, a religious overview of their lives, but still be able to address the concern that we're dealing with other entities that may or may not be demonic, depending on how you look at it?
The way I look at it, this isn't a salvation issue. Salvation is, believing that God, that Jesus came and died on the cross, and that's our salvation. So all of this other stuff it has no bearing on our salvation. All of the, and we can sit there and fantasize and think maybe there might be something out there, and, and personally for myself, I'm content knowing that, it's God that's out there. And, but I like to fantasize. I love sci-fi. I'm a huge sci-fi junkie. I love, Star Trek and, Star Wars. And so, yeah, we can, I'm sure people can think that and maybe believe it and, wonder all these sightings that people see and how amazing that, and I actually talk to a lot of people that have seen, and I've been talking a lot more to people about this, and it's amazing how many people have seen something that they identify as a UFO. There's a lot of people that I know personally.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, UFO really, it's a real broad term. So, you don't really abandon anything by just identifying something as unidentifiable. But for those individuals who have experiences, and you mentioned people seeing things, but there's some people that go beyond just seeing. There's people who believe they've been abducted or experimented on or taken throughout their entire lives. Some people say that it's generation upon generation that is being impacted by these entities. And a lot of times they can't rationalize it, but they don't find answers in the Bible or religious artifacts either.
They don't? Because right. I would suggest that it's a demonic, and demons go down through generations. they stick with families and they impact like they have jobs and they're assigned to different families. So if a whole family is generation upon generation having the same experience, I would consider it demonic. I would consider it demonic activity, and they certainly can fool us at any given time.
So Donna, so we are doing the show live, and so we actually have one question coming in from my previous guest, one of our favorite guests also, Ronnie Dawson. And so he had a question. And so here's the question. What if we send, we have a rover on Mars right now. Mm-hmm. And just recently, which I'm really miffed about, but I'll take care of that on the next show. The issue with the Titan moon, we'll get into that next week, folks. I guarantee it. But what if, with all these rovers, now we have rovers going to the moon this year. We have rovers in Mars, quite a few, like 3 or so. And who knows where else they're dropping these things. But what if one of them actually identifies signs of life? If it's microbial life, does that still fall within the realm of religious belief for those that really believe that there can be no one other like human beings anywhere?
Okay. So that's the thing is, God, He created, everything has life in it. Everything that has breath is to praise the Lord. That's in the book of Psalms. Everything living has breath. Every cell has a breath. And I would not be surprised if they found, a living organism. Like, nothing would surprise me as far as that. Would that mean that there is, sentient beings out there? I don't believe so. I do not believe. But I would not be surprised if there was something found. Like, nothing would surprise me as far as that.
So beyond microbial life, if there was a rabbit?
A rabbit? I don't think so. And those are all what ifs. There's a lot of. I have to kind of sort of deal on facts here because, like I'm saying, if anything contradicts the Bible and like the Bible does not have an answer for it, to me that is a huge exclamation point. So when I actually have solid concrete proof of something, then I can, try to figure out what the heck's going on.
Yeah, and I think what Ronnie might be...
question, though.
Yeah, so I think what Ronnie might be alluding to is that, ever since the rovers got there, and they also have that Mars surveyor going around, reconnaissance surveyor, going around Mars, there's been a lot of methane in the air, and it appears to be not something constant. It goes through periods or what have you. But...
Isn't that decomposition? Isn't that what methane is?
Well, no, methane, it's kind of like eating, the stuff that comes out the other end. So...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, like decomposition.
Right.
That's the gas that comes with, okay.
Yeah, the leftovers. So, so basically, that's the idea. Now, recently, as early as last year, the European Space Agency tried to get a rover over there to actually read what type of methane it was, whether it was a chemical compound or it was a biological, but unfortunately, they got the numbers wrong and the thing crashed.
Oh.
Yeah.
Whoa, big surprise.
Yeah, so,
I'm sorry, I really think that anytime that anybody, I think that something like that's going to happen every single time an attempt is made. And the amount of money that is spent on this, spent on trying to discover, life outside of this planet, I think it's amazing to me how much money is being spent.
Oh, it's astronomical. Totally astronomical. So for you, in seeing something like that, you're not necessarily going to say, oops, there is a chance here that this could be something natural.
No. I guess it's kind of hypocritical a little bit, but for me to say this, but I'm trying to deal with facts and not myths. You know what I mean? But people could say, well, you believe in the Bible. Okay, I get that there's a little bit of hypocrisy there, but as far as I'm concerned, like, the Bible is historically correct in all of it, and I just can't, like, I believe that there are, I really believe that what we are experiencing as far as the extraterrestrials and abductions, I really believe it's demonic. And I believe the purpose of it is to try to disprove that there is a God by our enemy. And our enemy, that's what he wants people to doubt, that there is a God. When everything that we look at, everything in creation proves that there's a God. And it's just I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things. Again, you can only you have to hold on to your beliefs, But there is so much out there, and and for me personally, and I can share this because I guess I can. I hold on to my beliefs, but I still have that scientific mind about me. You know what I mean? Where there is evidence, and I firmly believe in where there is smoke, there's fire. Now, what the origin is, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I don't know if it's interdimensional, if it's demonic, or if it's really what many people are saying, and that is it's interplanetary, in between galaxies, or what have you. I could see, personally, someone sending probes, just like we send probes to other countries, sending probes to investigate, to look, and things going wrong. I could definitely see that, and I understand. Now, your perspective has always interested me only because, I am Catholic. And so it's something that, if I were to sit down and talk to, let's say, my grandmother about, who totally devout Catholic, she would probably say the same thing that you're saying. But again, like I said, I am Catholic, but I am scientific in the way I do my thought process. And that's why every time I have you on, it's interesting to me because it almost takes me to kind of like a flashback, in my earlier years.
Right.
So, you brought up the Tower of Babel. Now, Tower of Babel, if you are looking at a time period where there was one single continent, that's a long, long time ago.
Well, you know what? I don't think it's as long as you think it is. There is this, you know what, I'm going to tell you about a website. I want you to sometime in your personal time, I want you to go to answersingenesis.org. Okay?
Okay. Everybody write that down because I want everyone to go.
Answersingenesis.org. And there are scientists that are Christians. They're creationists. And I'm not a scientific person. I'm telling you, like, it goes in one ear and out the other. But when you read some of these articles that these creationists have written, these scientists, it's actually amazing how an example, the amount of salt in the ocean. The salt beats up against the shore, and it takes salt into the water. It takes it out into the ocean. They did a calculation that if the Earth was as old as people say it is, this millions and trillions of years old Earth, that the salt would be so dense and that nothing could live in it. And then there was another article done about the amount of helium in the atmosphere. Now, don't ask me to break it down to you. I cannot do that. That would probably be something that you would really, really like. You'd probably get into that because you're a science person. I'm not. But if you take the time and look for these creationist scientists, there are a lot of articles that these guys do. And then there are also a lot of scientists that were once atheist agnostics that have become Christians based on stuff that they're discovering as our science advances, like our ways of gauging things. I guess that it's proving that there's no way that this Earth is as old as they say it is.
Well, see, and that's that kind of lends to some of the other conspiracy theories. So, what is it that they're saying basically? That it's not 4.51 billion years old?
No. what? Let me think. 10,000 years before Christ, and it's been I don't know, 10,000 years. Yeah, I'm telling you, read them. I swear, you'd be like, what? You'd be like, what? Yeah.
So that would really be something. That would be something really interesting to see, because that kind of turns the tables around on everything, doesn't it?
Yes, because Adam lived to be like 964. That's what the Bible says. If you go and you look at the Bible and look at the generations of how many, especially in the first few books, it talks about how long the generations were, because they lived a lot longer back then, because the DNA was perfect. They didn't have all the corruption that's in our DNA. That's why we get cancer and, our lifespans are so short. But back then, they were meant to live forever. Their bodies were perfect. Their DNA was perfect. There was absolutely nothing wrong with them. And then when they got cast out of Eden, their bodies started corrupting, because sin has corrupted everything. And that's from that point on, from the point of Adam on, that is when the lifespan started shortening. But he lived to be like 964 years old. Abraham lived a long time too. I mean, man, he had Isaac when he was 200. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's not nearly as old as, if you go according to the Bible, it's not as old as people think it is. And they've done the whole thing with the fossils and carbon dating. There are contradicting beliefs on that whole fossil or that carbon dating. If you read both sides, and you got to think that there's somehow in the middle. You know what I mean? That it's right.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of these sciences are a little bit iffy when it comes down to the facts, especially something like dating. That's quite complicated.
It's impossible.
I think. Yeah. And I think that's why that they've been changing. Let's say like I just went over about how they changed how old the Earth was, and to change it to like 60 million more years. That's quite a bit.
The Book of Job could date. Okay, even though Moses wrote it, the story of Job actually predates Moses. There are descriptions of the dinosaurs. He describes dinosaurs in it. And Job was not millions of years old. We're going by Hebrew, Jewish, what do they call it, oral history. And that's how they kept their history, and that's why we can always, know that the Talmud or the first 5 books of the Bible are so accurate, because every child had to know it orally and be able to recite it. That was part of their growing up thing. So everything that you read in those first 5 books is completely, you cannot doubt it. And they talked about dinosaurs in the Book of Job. It's pretty cool. And they were definitely not millions of years old, like they're saying that's when dinosaurs existed.
So when you hear people talk about how how mankind was seeded by extraterrestrials and so forth, I knew I was going to get that reaction from you.
Sorry.
What does that? Do you think again that is a work of demonics? A demonic, unholy, influence.
Yeah, because they're lying. Adam was created from dust, and then Eve was taken from Adam. Like, if you want to consider seeding, sure, he was formed from dust. I mean, there's microorganisms in the dirt. I don't know if that's what they want to call it. I guess they could do that. And God must be some master alien or whatever. No, God spoke the world into existence. He spoke it. It was yeah. It's. I don't mean to laugh at people's beliefs that they're trying. It's like I believe that Satan really does have this ability to get people to believe. And the thing is what he's trying to get people to believe is so amazing. And then how come they're not believing what God did? Because what God did was so amazing. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, why would they choose, to me, it's like weird. Why would they choose to believe that an alien seeded us rather than believe that a loving God created us? Does that make sense? You see why I laugh?
Well, everyone has their perspective.
I know. Totally. But that's why I'm good for your show, because you're going to get a completely different perspective from me.
And that's the whole idea. And so
Yep.
I just want to welcome Dave from Dave in the Morning. Welcome, Pastor Dave. By the way, he enjoyed the last time that you were here. He actually listened to the show, and he made some comments.
Oh, really?
He did. So, and Dave says he's with God. I am with God.
Awesome. Me too.
And you might, one day listen to him. He's on at 6:30 Central on Spreaker, Dave in the Morning show. He has a cast, a crew, and some of them. Well, you'll just have to listen. Time. Yeah, it's a great show.
Cool.
And Ronnie Dawson says, "I believe in God, but I saw some aliens." So again, and Ronnie Dawson again. He's down like Central or South Texas, down that way, and he had an experience, and he wrote a book about it. And he's been talking about it ever since, trying to figure out, what was it that happened to him. And Dave refers to himself as Sybil. So a psychology joke. So anyway, so getting back to the Tower of Babel. So with the Tower of Babel, the idea was that they were creating it to actually reach God, reach the heavens, right?
I believe that was the purpose. They were trying to, do it on their own merits rather than, obeying God in faith. They were trying to do it on their own merits. They were trying to reach Him or stop whatever, because God commanded them. He told them to go out and multiply, go out amongst the earth and multiply, and they didn't do it. They were trying to stay together in one little city, bunched up together, and that was not what He told them to do. So they, in rebellion, they, tried to circumvent God, and God was saying, and He does thank us throughout history.
So when we fast forward, we continually see, in famous paintings and different books that people are writing, then you get to the closer stuff like, pictures and descriptions and incidents. If this is all from a demonic origin, why doesn't it just take over? Why is it this incident by incident, little by little? Why doesn't it just come all at one time? Because,
and I'm saying this very fervently, God is still here. The Holy Spirit is still on this earth. Like when Jesus rose to heaven, He left the Holy Spirit. And because of that, there is still truth. And as long as there's truth, the lies can't overwhelm everybody. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Good and evil, light and dark.
Yes. Right.
So it's a balance.
And the darkness,
it's a balance
and
thing.
The darkness can't comprehend the light. The darkness cannot dwell with the light. But it's so insidious how one lie can start. And even if, do you remember that one game that you used to play when you were a kid with you say one thing to someone and then they pass it on? I think I did this as an icebreaker at work. And it passed on and became a completely different story than it was when it started out. It's like that. It's like the lies spread and it becomes bigger and bigger. And all it takes is, a hallucination, or it takes, brainwashing. I believe, the whole, the brainwashing technique. People, we are susceptible to lies. We are susceptible to it.
So Donna, we're at the 44-minute mark, but I want to say this. Would you entertain listening to people who have their stories about their experiences? Would you listen to them?
Yes. Oh, yes. Without a doubt. That's actually something about me is I love listening to people's stories. I love listening to different social, economic, and I like the documentaries of different countries and how they live. Like, I love stories. I totally would listen. But does that mean that I won't find, everything, like I said, goes back to the Bible. I would look for, an answer to the mystery.
As a matter of fact,
yes,
I think that you should probably join us at the convention in April. And it's the Aurora Alien Encounter. Mm-hmm. I think it would be great for you to go to that.
Where's it at? Hey, give me the information later.
I will, and we'll announce it here on the show because we're supposed to be there. And it's actually on the west side of Fort Worth, so it's not very far. It's still right here in the DFW area, but it's very famous because Aurora was the first kind of documented crash in 1897, and it happened here in Texas.
Wow!
So it'll be interesting just to kind of see you in that environment and see how you kind of translate everything that's happening.
Yes.
So I guess I'm making you into an experiment.
Okay.
Kind of. I don't know. We'll see how it works out. But anyway, I want to thank everyone for listening. Today we had Donna. As always, Donna, you are super duper informative. And I want to make sure everybody knows that we'll be back again next Sunday. Be sure to tune in for Manny's Blurb sometime during the week. We're going to do that a bit more regular this year. And if you want to reach us, you can reach us through Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and through UFOBusterRadio.com. And if you want to have a conversation with Donna, let us know. We can facilitate it and let her know if you guys have some feedback for her. By the way, Donna, Dave in the morning. Dave says, awesome.
Great.
And Ronnie, thanks, Donna. And Ronnie, by the way, you're on here. We need to get you back on so we can hear some updates from you. But that is it from my side. Donna, any last words before you go?
I'm just so glad. I have so much fun. It goes by so fast. It amazes me. And thank you for having me on.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I always enjoy speaking with you, Donna. And I'm sure that there is a lot of listeners out there right now that really can understand where you're coming from. Because many of them have that battle within them between their beliefs, what's out there in the media, and what they're trying to comprehend. And I think you share that part of that conversation with them. So, I guess that's ciao.
Awesome.
Say bye, Donna.
Bye.